Welcome, everybody. My name is Ryan and this is Justin, and
Howdy.
this is Footy Rivals for round 10, actually. We're 10 rounds into the year.
Nearly about halfway point.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. 10 rounds.
We said last week it's depressing. It's getting more depressing with every week.
We've always come into the bye rounds, actually. I'm trying to get this out so we can get the chat up.
Mate, what are we on the agenda today? We've got our questions first, as always.
We do have our questions first.
But it's been a big couple of days on the injury front, mainly. But we'll get to that.
But yeah, we will get to that. Massive injuries. A lot of big ins and outs this week as well, I feel, for a lot of teams.
Yeah, huge. Big changes. You know, we're writing them down. We write them down every week just so we've got them with us for reference.
We do.
And we had some significant changes. But should we jump into our questions?
Yeah, let's go to our questions. All right, I've got a question for you, and it pertains to your team in Fremantle, okay? Now, Lachie Neale was traded last year, and he comes back this week to Fremantle to play against...
He does.
To play against the Purple Army, right? My question to you is, if Lachie Neale is at Fremantle this year, are they a certainty to make finals? I want you to argue that they're not.
Okay. All right. I'll take that on board. That's actually quite a tough one. That's
why I asked it.
There's very good reasons that they would be, but okay. All right. I'll champion that. Now, my question to you also pertains to my team in Fremantle.
Right.
Because I need reassurance. Yep. I need something good in my life about this team after the last 3 weeks. And it didn't come with the Matt Taberner injury.
No, it definitely didn't.
I was already salty, and that's literally more salt in the wound.
Yes.
So, I need you to tell me why Fremantle will be fine, if not better, without Matt Taberner in their lineup.
Oh.
I feel like...
Why is Freo better with no Matt Taberner? Okay, I'll have a think about that as we go through the show.
Yeah. I feel like there's arguments both ways there. We spoke about this earlier in the week. I need you to give me some reassurance, man. I need some good stuff. I need something. Just give me something.
True Footy. Welcome to... I'm assuming it's Jesse, actually, not just True Footy. Do I actually do all of my questions? Is that right?
I feel like I make you argue for Freo more than I make
an intentional thing. I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's Footy Rivals.
Well, we've got our questions now, guys. In the cards in the top right hand of the screen, we've got the questions in there already. With a poll. Give us your answers in the poll and let us know what you think based on those questions as well.
I would like more reassurance.
What about
from
why
the
is
internet
Fremantle?
community.
Why is Fremantle what?
What?
What are you talking about, Joel? Or why is Fremantle? So I'm going to be arguing, why is Fremantle going to be better with no Taberner this year? That's going to be...
Yeah.
That's
I need you to tell me.
argument case. Okay.
I need something.
Well, moving on. I actually want to know... This is something that keeping with the Fremantle trend, I suppose. I want to know what's with Fremantle at the moment, okay? Because I made the call in my power rankings video this week that I felt that Fremantle, with the list that it has right now this year, should be vying for a top 4 position or pushing for a top 4 spot, right? They've got a really powerful forward line in names, right? Their midfield with Fife alone is more than capable of holding its own. Yeah. And their back line is elite, right? Why are they not pushing for finals? Like, why are they not pushing for a top 4 and maybe hoping that they only get finals?
Well, this is something that we talked about during the week also. System and personnel.
Yes.
They're the two things you need, aren't they? I mean, you need the right people doing the right jobs. Fremantle goes after personnel every time there's a problem.
Yes.
Problem in the forward line, we'll go get Jesse Hogan. Need a backup ruckman, we'll go get Rory Love. And I don't hate that. Go and get the right people. Bring them into your football club. That's step number 1. But step number 2 has got to be, what's the best system to fit these people?
Yes.
They don't have a system.
No.
What system is happening at that football club? I don't...
Yeah.
I was watching that Essendon game while working. which was tough. But and I don't know why. I don't know why I bothered. Might as well have just done my job. But anyways, I needed to watch and to see because I had genuine hope that they would bounce back and win that game. And again, for the third straight week, they had chances. No. They had enough of the footy, enough entries to win it. But it's just the constant long bombs, the constant bad use of the football.
They're not very good at hitting the short option.
We sound like a broken record because we go on about this week after week, but they literally just don't fix it. So it just remains a hot topic.
My observations of Fremantle is pretty clear cut. The more contested and congested they play, or that Ross Lyon forces them to play, the worse they are. Now, it makes the opposition worse as well, but Fremantle's ball movement isn't good enough to outmaneuver the opposition, I feel, at the moment.
Sorry, go on.
I personally feel that Ross Lyon should open up the game plan, open up the ground, and actually let his forwards, who he has a power forward line now, do the work that they're supposed to be doing.
I couldn't agree more. The frustrating thing is you say they bog it down, and it seems like every time Fremantle will control the ball for 5 minutes of possession, really control it, really strangle it out of the opposition's hands, put on some good pressure, they zone off well, and they'll get the footy back. But it seems like that 5 minutes is such a slog for them that if they turn it over and it goes over their heads, somehow the other team has a paddock of space to run in.
Yeah.
I never see Freo get it over the top of a team with a paddock of space to run in. No, and with the personnel they have,
that's what the only way they do that is when someone like Michael Walters cuts through like 2 broken tackles and suddenly there's space in front of him. It's never a kick over the back. It's always a running midfielder who cuts through. Finds some space. Yeah. I mean, David Mundy does it well and things like that, but you can't count on personnel alone to get you there. And I feel like systems really letting them down at the moment. And those games that they've lost the last 3, I think it's Adelaide, Richmond, Essendon, were all at some point in the game winnable. Yeah.
And if they turn that around, you're looking at a 7-2 record, not a 4-5.
Even if you break even, you give them 1 out of those 3.
5-4.
They're still, they're still in a good position.
Above that 500
they're still in a good
mark.
position, but they're not there.
It's hard to see them moving on. Moving on from Fremantle, because I've had enough. We're in so much pain. Have we got any comments about them, actually? I need something.
Andrew did, but he just removed it, I think, so that's okay. He was talking about their young guys and everything, which I suppose is a point, but I don't actually think... I think their young players play well enough that it's not a burden on the team.
No, there are other things in that team that are a burden before the young kids.
Their structures are a problem. In particular, their forward structures, which actually leads me to something I was discussing with you this week anyway. Do they bring in a new forward line coach to help their forward line structures and to help the chemistry between their forwards to be able to actually do something with their forward line? Because I find that their forward line is getting in the way of each other a lot.
That's a huge problem for them. And they've been somewhat premeditated and adamant at going with 3 tools, as if that's somehow the structure that is bound to set them in place. And I don't know if that's the way forward.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure David Hale's the forward coach there at the moment.
I think so. Yeah.
And
which was a ruck. Why is he not the ruck coach?
I don't know. He was a ruck who played well when he rotated forward, I guess. I don't know. They've got a million questions to answer. I don't know if it starts with positional coaches, but it definitely reaches them at some point.
I think Ross Lyon gets to 2020 to the end of the year of his contract.
Don't let him finish that contract.
And then we'll see whether he's the right man for the job or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, I want to talk about some news that happened this week.
There's a lot of news that happened this week.
A lot of news did happen.
What are we talking about? Yep.
I would like to talk about Dale Thomas's trip to the tribunal.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
And I would like to pose the question to you. He called the umpire an expletive cheat.
Yeah.
I'd like to pose the question. He copped it. It was
$7,500.
Yeah, $7,500 fine. Should he have gotten more or less, or do you think that punishment is about where it should be? Well, where do you stand with the abusing of the umpire?
No, so Dale Thomas, before that verdict was given to him, right? So after the MRO referred it directly to the tribunal, and it came out that this is what happened. But before the actual tribunal sitting, Daisy Thomas said that, look, this would make sense in context.
Yes.
And it does,
right, okay.
actually.
Yeah.
It does actually make sense. He went in there and he pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
He was, yes, this happened, but this is the actual events as to what happened, which was basically that the boundary umpire, Michael Barlow, was basically warning the player of opposition, you got to get out of here or you'll incur a penalty. Get out. And Daisy Thomas was like, you can't say, what are you doing? You can't say that. Yeah. You're a cheat.
Yeah.
When comparing that to Dane Rampy the week before,
right.
who called the umpire a little girl, Dane Rampy went out of his way to do that, whereas there was premeditation to Daisy's frustration to then do that. So I agree that it should have been defined as a lesser fine to Dane Rampy just because of the context surrounding it. So I'm happy with where it is.
I was quite happy with where it is too. It makes the statement that, hey, you've still got to be professional.
Because you can't talk to umpires like that. Because if you're allowed, even though this isn't a bad scenario, right, like in the context of things, and giving it context in the first place, it's not necessarily a bad expletive to the umpire. But if you let something like this, it just allows something bigger into the
where
frame.
does it build to and things like that. But at the same time, I
Which
think
is
it was
why
right.
I'm not opposed to umpires paying soft free kicks. Because if you pay the soft free kicks, it discourages the bigger ones to come in.
It sets a bit of a tone. And I thought the tribunal also made the right call, not increasing the fine to be something bigger, to just go out of their way to make a statement. Because that would just be punishment over the top of what was necessary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think it was right. I just wish I knew if Michael Barlow had a sledge back.
Yeah, he probably would have.
He was a great sledger back.
He probably would have.
I hope it was something good.
I got a question for you. Some more news that came out this week. Actually came out today, right?
Today. Okay.
Probably the biggest news of the week so far. Joe Danaher's OP has come back.
Poor Joe.
He's out for the year.
Yeah.
How does this now affect his career?
Badly. Like, he's still young enough to come back from this. Let's not put a fork in him or anything like that. But badly. Like, he's really struggling to string games together. And the AFL, like, community and fans, I've always said, and I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I've always said that they're quite lenient towards players that are injured, and they just hold them still in high regard.
Yeah.
But if you look to other sports, like American sports, for example, injured players are just considered bad players because they can't get on the park.
Yeah.
And at some point, that's going to translate to Joe Danaher. It's going to be like, well, are you really worth the contract that you're getting from Essendon to just break down? Are you worth all these things? I
suppose he's only... I can understand that, but I think it's too early to have that sentiment on Joe
I think
Danaher
so too.
Yet.
He's very young. We did say that. Yeah.
One of the better comparisons... I'm not sure better comparisons, but one of the comparisons with OP is the most probably publicised OP, and that was Chris Judd.
Yeah.
Which wrecked his 2007, specifically the end of his 2007, and there were a lot of issues that came out. Like, he came back the following season.
He did, yeah.
Which is astounding to me, because Joe Danaher is effectively going to have like almost 2 years off of the game.
Basically,
Judd comes back the following year. But he lost... It's very well documented that Chris Judd lost his explosiveness from the contest.
Yeah.
And he had to change his game from being an outside burst midfielder to being an inside contested midfielder, and he did that brilliantly. But he had to actually, like, if you've, I'm not sure if you've read his autobiography. In his autobiography, when it came, like, I read it when he brought it out, he specifically said that he had to actually go through training with the physio to change his stride, like his running stride.
Really? So far into the detail.
Yeah,
because of his own running patterns.
That's what helped him fix the OP up and make it so that it wasn't coming back. It was having like hamstring and back issues, so he had to fix the way that he was actually running and walking to completely reinvent his running stride, so that he could actually come back and perform.
Do you think that is going to be easier for a midfielder than it is for someone the size of Joe Danaher playing the role of Joe Danaher. I mean,
see, I think
that paints a grim picture for him.
See, this is the thing with Danaher, though, is because of the position that he plays, he can play his position in different ways. He can play as a lead-up forward. He can play as a running forward, which he's typically been known as a running forward. Comes up the ground, comes back down the ground,
very
up the
good
ground, comes back down the ground.
Yes.
What he needs to do now, he can't do that anymore. Like he's not going to be able to play that game anymore.
He just can't run himself into the ground like that.
I think
if this is going to be recurring,
I think
which it is.
If he's going to be coming back to the AFL and playing consistently, he needs to bulk up and be a contested forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
He's big.
Minimise movement a little bit.
He's probably one of the tallest forwards in the competition.
It's huge. When he's in the back line, in the forward line against opposition defenders, the back line looks dwarfed.
Yeah, I think he needs to bulk up and be a contested forward.
Is that something that you think he's capable of doing?
I don't know. His contested marks is generally pretty good.
He's not bad,
but he's normally getting contested mark when he's up the pack. So I don't know whether his groin will allow him the power to be able to jump on top of packs anymore. But he has, if he wants to come back to the AFL and be a dominant player, I think he has to return in a contested capacity as opposed to a leading up type play, because he's going to lose a lot of the speed that he has.
If we have any Essendon fans actually watching, I'd love to hear some opinions from them on how they think the long-term injuries of Danaher are actually affecting their team. So if you're out there, Essendon fans, please chime in.
I also think he loses his 60-metre bomb.
Yeah.
That's got to go.
But is that necessary to even have that at some point? If he makes himself that deeper forward, maybe he doesn't even
Possibly
need it.
not.
Hopefully not.
And he do you know what? Joe Danaher, if he does this, and if he goes down, I mean, the club will already have a plan in place with
they will be fully
how do they want Joe
too.
Danaher to be playing from now.
Yes.
They might say something else to what I'm saying, and it may work brilliantly. But if they do go down this path and make him a contested forward, right, he could actually redefine the forward craft of the modern era.
100%.
To go away from, and go back to the early 90s forward craft where you just stick one in the square and just do spot up leads.
Are you saying that Joe Danaher needs to sort of mould his game around Josh Kennedy a little in terms of just being the forward that plays a little deeper, is really lead up and mark, but not obviously at the 50, I mean, like lead up towards the midfielder that's charging into you?
Possibly. I'm just not sure he's going to have the speed.
Josh Kennedy?
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to have the speed for. I would personally model his game based on Jason Dunstall.
Okay, yeah. So really wind back the clock and just sort of go back to some basic footy.
Yeah.
I mean, the best way he's going to come back into the side,
he can go beyond that.
And he's got to be kicking goals. That's the thing. If he's playing deep, he's got to be kicking goals. There's going to be pressure on him, because if not, you'd rather someone who moves up the ground and gets 2 marks and might jump back and kick 2 goals instead. It's something that he would have to then... And he does affect goals enough as it is now. He's a good goal kicker. So, and the pain with Essendon's forward line goes on. Smith, Fantasia still out. Smith for the year now, even though forward mid-roll. And then Fantasia for, I think it's 3 more weeks.
I'm not sure how long Fantasia's out for.
I think I was flicking through Facebook just
and
before.
And there's another big one. Devon Smith out for the year.
Yeah, huge. Gone for the year.
So Essendon have lost a lot of cattle on the field now.
Yeah, like their injuries are coming to key players, like really key players. And well, let's talk about finals then for a second, because Essendon are one of those teams that are on the cusp. I think it's Fremantle 9th. Essendon's either 10th or 11th or something like that. Port Adelaide sits in 8, and they're looking at the 8 today. The only side that I would expect to have any chance of dropping out looks like Port Adelaide. I'd
toss up Port Adelaide and maybe Adelaide, but it
potentially
depends on how Adelaide keep tracking. We saw the worst of Adelaide at the start of the year. I don't think we've seen the best of Adelaide yet.
No,
but we're seeing a still inconsistent Adelaide, and I just don't know whether the good Adelaide will actually return, because if they stay this mediocre kind of like teasing us kind of team, I don't think they make it.
Is that, it's starting to raise the question, is that just what they are? I mean, it's raised it. It's not starting to raise it.
Because we actually did have a look at
just
this
what they are?
earlier on in the week. We actually had a look at the top 7 teams
and their run home. Yeah.
And Adelaide's run home was the most unconvincing.
Significantly harder than the others.
We only gave, 4 games a certain win?
Yeah.
And every other game that they play is... I don't know who wins this, actually.
It becomes up to them to then force that, because I'm not even... I should have looked at the stats of how they go on Adelaide Oval this year, but have they been good on Adelaide Oval this year? Are they making it a bit of a fortress? Because they're really going to need to protect their home ground.
I wouldn't say they're making it a fortress. No, their record is...
I know they beat Fremantle there, but...
Their record is 6-3 or 5-3? I think it's 5-3. 5-4, sorry.
5-4. Could be 5-4. Could be. I think it is, because I think they lost their first 3 or something, didn't they? Yeah, and then they lost to Brisbane on the weekend.
Yeah.
In a thriller, which affirmed your certainty, not so certainly.
Lost to Hawks and Cats, and obviously, and so they must be 6-3.
Yeah.
Yes, and they got me my. Thank you, Adelaide, for losing that by a point, because you got me my certainty.
You robbed us of a decent video.
Lost to Hawks and Cats at Adelaide Oval. So Adelaide Oval for them has not been a fortress this year. So far.
No.
But that can change.
It can, but if they are not protecting home ground in that run of questionable games that we gave them, they're screwed. It's going to be hard to see them come out.
Yeah, so they could be a team that actually drops out of finals.
Yeah. Okay, so that leaves 2 teams. So with 2 teams dropping, who's banging down the door of finals outside of the 8? No one's exactly banging down the door.
I don't think Essendon now. I think Essendon have lost too many players.
I think Fremantle's slipping too much.
Yeah, Fremantle would have to rectify a fair bit.
Yeah.
They would have to go through a complete game style change.
I mean, the one I feel for in this conversation is Melbourne having been so bad early on.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they played better footy against West Coast
they could actually... If these teams above them do kind of fall off a bit, they could actually... They're very well... They're very much in the conversation.
They would need to win this week against Greater Western Sydney.
Yes. Yeah. But it's at the G.
It's at the G, which really rolls in their favour.
Chance that
GWS stink at the G, so... very interesting.
On topic of finals... The Suns came out with a very... there was an article on the Suns this week that spoke about their 1 to 7 point structure with the players and everything, and how they're improving from year to year and everything. Yeah. It very much sounds like Stuart Dew knows what he's doing and will actually take them to the destination they want to go, whether it's a premiership or not.
Yeah. It's quality football on the Gold Coast is what they want.
So I want to ask you, not if, but when do the Suns make their debut finals?
I think it becomes...
Do you think they're a smoky chance this year?
No, I don't.
They've got the same record as Melbourne. They're 3-6.
If they were healthy, yes.
And they've lost 2 games by 1 point.
The ones they won were also close wins too against opposition that I don't think is quality. From memory, I can't actually remember who they beat bar Fremantle.
Yeah, I can't remember the other one besides Fremantle.
God, we suck. Anyway.
When do they make finals next year?
It becomes a possibility because they're really, really injured. Like they're really hurt at the moment, aren't they? Like Sam Collins just went down for 4 to 6 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is super sad. I was loving that story. But hopefully he comes back in 4 to 6 weeks just as good. I think it becomes a possibility next year, just with the way the AFL's been played over the last 3 seasons. Like, teams can pop up out of nowhere, and it's been really good to watch. So, the Suns, I would say 2 years' time, because with the age bracket of their talent in 2 years, they should be...
If not next year, then the following year.
Yeah, they have a chance. Yeah, whether they do it or not. But I'm with you. I have a lot of belief in Stuart Dew.
Yeah,
what
he seems to be doing a lot
right. I rate him as a really quality coach. And I think, some of the other lower clubs down the bottom of the ladder are probably scratching their heads going, like, imagine, we would love to have him as our coach.
Yeah. Well, he was Sydney's senior assistant coach.
I believe so, yeah.
Before he left. Yeah. And he was headhunted.
Yeah.
Before he went to the Suns. Like, he was specifically hunted for a couple of years before he then put his hand up to go to the Suns.
It had been talked about for some time. Yeah. Like, it was inevitable that one day he was going to be a head coach of somewhere, and he took the Suns gig. I don't. Yeah, I give them 2 years. I think in 2 years they might be ready to do that because I like their list. Their young talent's really good.
Hi X actually raises something here. Do they have a better chance of making finals than Carlton within 2 years?
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because Carlton might be on the coaching carousel. You never know what that does to a team. Who knows what they're going to do at the end of the
really
season.
hope they stick with Bolton
So
at
do I.
least for
So do
next
I.
year. At least for next year. Let him finish his contract.
I hope so too. And from everything coming out of Chris Judd and the Carlton camp,
He's there this year at the very least. And I do see them improving.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk about Bolton too much because we talk about him every week.
Yeah, he's a hot topic.
That particular statement there was a very interesting statement to me because I feel that if the Suns don't make finals next year, I don't think the Carlton will make finals next year, but I do think Carlton will make finals in 2021.
Okay.
Like,
I
almost have that as a lock, that they'll make finals in 2 years.
Yeah,
and the
I
Suns
can see
in
that,
2 years.
yeah.
So I actually think they're very similar on track.
They are very similar. I'm going to give the Suns the edge over them, but that's not to say that they would play finals before. I mean, anything can happen. The injuries can hit. Who knows? But if both were healthy and both develop the way fans of theirs want them to develop, I'm going to give the Suns a small edge over them.
Yeah.
Probably just because of Stuart Dew. One thing I wanted to talk about this week, it's Sir Douglas Nichols round.
Yes.
We are honouring the fantastic Indigenous footballers of our game.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, as a West Coast fan, who is your favourite Indigenous player that has come to your club?
I'll answer that. I mean, I'll return something to you because obviously I'm going to ask you the same thing about Freo, but I also want to ask you who your all-time favourite Indigenous player is, whether it be at Freo or just across the competition altogether. So my favourite, I mean, it's really no contest, particularly with West Coast. And West Coast is a relatively young club.
Yeah.
Anyway, Peter Matera.
It's a cakewalk for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, 2-time premiership. He's got the Norm Smith medal.
Yeah.
Probably should have had a Brownlow, and I think 94 as well. Yeah, he's a superstar. But I do think that either Ryan or Rioli could potentially overtake him over their careers as well.
Yeah, with what they have a lot of footy in front of them.
A very, very close second right now, though, would be David Wirrapunda.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I didn't think of him off the top of the head. God, he was amazing.
Very, very close second. I loved Wirra as a player.
Similar going to back flankers for me, and my favourite Indigenous player for Fremantle is Roger Hayden.
Roger Hayden?
I loved Roger Hayden, particularly in the 2010 season when Fremantle decided that they were done sucking for
Johnson.
a while. Johnson probably has...
Or Wizard?
Both are probably regarded more
I actually think
prestigiously.
you've had more prestigious Indigenous players than West Coast.
Fremantle's definitely been, a club that has, seen some real pioneers for Indigenous talent in terms of. I mean, even if you look at them now, there's a lot on their list that are really talented players, and they're amazing to watch. Walters, Hill, and they take a lot of pride in this round, particularly as they should. My favourite all time. So I'm going to go with Roger Hayden for Fremantle. Although I will say Johnson and Farmer are probably held more prestigiously than him, personally. Yeah. Roger Hayden. Favourite all time? I'm going to go with a tie because I thought about this today, actually, just when I was looking at lists of great Indigenous players. And favourite all time is a tie between Goods and McLeod for me.
Yeah, okay.
I
no Buddy?
I do love Buddy, but
really?
No,
there's a lot of really good Aboriginal players.
I just, for me, it was. I grew up like when I first started to get into footy. I was about 8-9 years old playing junior Auskick stuff.
I was going to say Goods as well, though. Yeah,
it was really like McLeod and Goods were really.
He's an All-Australian in every position or something, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Even the ruck.
Yeah,
I think he was an All-Australian ruckman.
Yeah, that's.
Two Brownlows
is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, 2 Brownlows, 2 flags, All-Australian in every position. He's amazing. And Andrew McLeod was just fantastic. Turned it on whenever. Special mention also to Gavin Wanganeen. I was a massive fan of Wanganeen.
Yeah.
Anyone who's in the chat, jump on, tell us your club and your favourite.
Yeah, so we've got a couple here. We've got Cyril and Buddy in there, Flying Ryan. McLeod has been mentioned a couple of times. Hello, RJS. How you going, mate? What are the thoughts on Indigenous jumpers? The Indigenous jumpers
really good.
like every single one of them too. Normally, every year there's a couple of just kind of stinkers that don't look
a bit
great.
over the top, something.
But they all look very clean this year.
Yeah,
it's the best year for Indigenous jumpers.
I was particularly a fan of Collingwood's with the circle and the 3 stripes.
Yep.
I thought that was really good, but it's hard to pick a favourite. I mean, Brisbane's look spectacular. I thought Carlton's were quite good.
I like the use of the colours and stuff as well. It's particularly Brisbane because the brown is a very Aboriginal colour that they used in
the background.
Yeah, looks fantastic.
Yeah, I thought they were spectacular. I'm looking forward to seeing them unveiled.
Well, speaking of the Indigenous round that it is this week, let's move on to the games. We've got a lot of very, very interesting games this week. I think this is going to be the closest. This is hands down the hardest week to tip.
It's a nightmare
so far this year. I reckon
it's a nightmare.
We so out of obviously we have to pick a certainty game, and out of the 9 games that are played this week, we have 7 games that we could choose as a certainty game because we have to use the 50-50 game sort of.
Yeah, because it would be boring.
Adelaide looked the best for me. There you go, Hayeks. So on Friday night footy tomorrow night, Swans versus the Pies at the SCG. Buddy and Kennedy are back in for Sydney, and Wells and Madgen are back in for the Pies, with Jones out for Swans, Varco and Langdon out for Pies, and
still no Degoe.
Yeah, Degoe back for the Pies. Tell me your thoughts about this one.
Going to be more interesting than I actually. Earlier this week, I was thinking, bloodbath, whatever, Collingwood will just romp this in.
Yeah.
Sydney have had 2 wins in a row close wins against opposition that are nowhere near in the frame of Collingwood. So it's tough to go off form, but I just have a feeling that Sydney have a better shot in this.
Than what they would have a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think as the season goes on, I think Sydney aren't. They started awfully, and I think they're just going to get better and they're build a little as the season goes on. They're probably not going to hit stride at any point and really start blazing teams away or anything. But I don't want to think that Sydney's going to be on the bottom for too long or playing bottom feeder footy for too long.
Yeah.
Having said all this, I'm going to go with Collingwood.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see how Buddy coming back into the forward line affects their forward line.
Yeah.
Because their forward line has gotten better with him out of the team.
Yeah, it has.
And I'm just hoping that forward line play stays as good as it has been, but with Buddy in there.
And Buddy can...
Because if Buddy comes back in there into a functioning forward line, he makes that forward line a 5-goal better forward line.
Huge inclusion.
Which I think is enough to go over Pies.
The way he plays, he has the capacity to not ruin what they've been doing too. Just move up the ground, free the space up and just keep moving. He loves to do that. Fitting that he's back for Sir Douglas Nicol round.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to go with Collingwood and stick with them.
I still think Collingwood as well.
But maybe not so comfortably. Maybe Sydney can give them a shake. I mean, Sydney have
because they are definitely coming back into some
recently.
form. Here's another thing for Sydney. Heath Grundy retired.
Yeah. Let's pay homage to Heath Grundy. Yeah. I thought about this today.
259 games or something like that.
Yeah, and some brewing
has been massive for the club.
Yeah, I thought about this today, and I feel like he's going to be remembered, to me at least, he's going to be remembered in the same frame as when Lee Spur retired. I think it was either last year or the year before. And that's in the way that he's going to be remembered as one of the most important defenders on a team that had one of the best defenses of all time.
Yeah, and
that's
so
a big way to be remembered.
The amount of times that he was single-handedly saving goals, massive,
and in big moments, big in the finals. I loved everything about Heath Grundy, and I have no problem with him going out the way he does. I've had people raise issues with me that I've talked to about, do you have a problem with legends or people we should be paying more homage to stepping away mid-season to allow for the mid-season draft?
I've got no problem.
I've got no problem with that. They're looking after their club. That's Heath Grundy's always looked after his club.
If anything, it encapsulates their legacy.
It's
more.
his style.
Yeah.
It's the way he should go out. Is helping the Swans, and if they can do that, what's the point of having him on the list for half a season?
If he's not even
just to give him a grand farewell possibility that might not even come to fruition.
So we're both on the Pies with that one.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yep.
Hawthorn and Port. We're at Tasmania.
We are down at
UTAS. First Saturday game. Interesting ins
Yes.
for Hawthorn. Frawley Wingard.
I was surprised Frawley came back so soon.
Yeah, me too. Out goes Moore and McAvoy hurts.
Yes.
Uh,
McAvoy hurts a lot.
And interesting ins for Port Adelaide, Jonas and Robbie Gray. Ladham's also in.
Ladham's for a debut.
Yeah. I Robbie Gray. What do you think? What do you expect? What did you think of him pre-injury form, and what are you expecting now?
Well, he was probably in Brownlow form pre-injury. He was probably
playing some good footy.
Probably the form player of the competition before injury. Injury has a way of really messing up form, though. I'm not expecting pre-injury form from Robbie Gray. I'm expecting something good, but not to the level that he was before he was injured, because the team has changed since he was out. Like, teams go through ebbs and flows, and they change the way that they play, even just over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. So being out for that long, it changes that. And I'm very interested to know what it does to change the rest of the team balance. Does he come into the forward line? Does he come into the midfield? If he comes into the midfield, what does that do to the midfield? Because you've got a lot of good midfielders in there.
I was going to ask, where would you like to see him play? Predominantly forward.
He plays. I think he's the best contributor to the team, forward to mid. So like 70 forward, 30 mid.
Yeah, I think so too. I would totally agree with that. And I'm guilty of totally forgetting about Robbie Gray for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, no.
And when I saw him on the ins, I was like, wow, that could actually rocket them from the team we were talking about potentially dropping out.
Big out for Port, though, is Lysette.
Yeah, that does hurt.
Because he definitely gives Ryder a cop-out. Ryder, I think, is now just getting to the point where he's a bit too old to be able to ruck all game.
Fortunately, he doesn't have to go against McAvoy.
That's true. But last year, and I suppose the year before as well, I don't think his body is up for the toll of rucking all game, all year anymore. No, Lysette really helps give that cop out. Lysette was in some really good form.
Is there anyone they have that then helps out?
Westhoff.
Oh, Westhoff, right. Yeah. Which isn't
too bad.
Worse options.
The percentage of being rucking is higher for him to be in the team.
I'm going to go with Port Adelaide because I just really want to see Robbie Gray line up.
You going Port?
I'm gonna go with Port Adelaide.
Interesting. I think the Hawks get over in Tasmania. Wingard comes against his old team.
See, I think that's bad for Hawthorn.
No, I'll think he'll fire up for this. Wingard's a big game player.
Yeah, true.
He'll love this game.
I kind of hope, and I don't hate Wingard. I got nothing against him, but I just really would like to see.
Prick, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't hate him, but he's arrogant. Whatever. I just want to see Port Adelaide silence him a bit. I think that'd be kind of cool. I'm gonna go with the Power. What have we got here?
I've got the Hawks.
Yeah. I'm gonna go the Power. So moving on. What do we
next
got next?
game of the round is Bulldogs versus North at Marvel Stadium. We've got ins for the Bulldogs: Dale, English, Lipinski, and Williams. And ins for North. I'm not even going to try and do this. Davies. Uniac,
I think it is. You were close. Or maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not 100% sure.
I looked at that when I was writing this.
LDU is just
all right.
Just LDU.
Big ins for the Dogs. Big outs for the Dogs too. Yeah, they've culled the list.
Gowers, Roberts, Hayes, Young. I prefer the ins. Bellydale, Tim English.
I think Gowers is a bit sort of.
Yeah, he hasn't played his best footy this year, though, has he? He was far better last year.
Yeah.
Him and Ed Richards is another one where I would like to see... I haven't paid attention to the Dogs much in recent weeks, so if I'm wrong, call me out. But I'd like to see Ed Richards lift a little, because he gave a lot last year. He was huge.
He did, yeah.
I'd like to see him give a little more.
How many games did he play last year, though?
Could have been all of them. I don't know. He was definitely in most games that I watched.
He's kind of hard to miss, though. Yeah. So you can definitely see when he's doing something, but you can also see when he's not doing something, because he just sticks out like a sore thumb.
I just feel like he's been a little quiet this year, and I'd like to see a little more, because he was really exciting when I watched him last year.
Well, I do think other players around him have lifted as well, so it's not such... he doesn't have to do as much as what
guys like Mitch Wallace, he's having a better year than he did last year, and things like that.
I still want Libba to come into the midfield.
I'm going to go with this as my certainty.
Really?
I'm going the Bulldogs.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
I don't like North very much. Davies Uniac doesn't make them better or worse, probably. And Garner out, Davies Uniac. They don't get better or worse. They're coming back.
They're almost an unchanged team.
Yeah,
they almost beat Sydney in Sydney.
Was that? I thought that was that was in Tasmania. I think that was in Blundstone.
Oh, no, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. So they've got to come back from Tasmania to verse the Bulldogs at home. The Bulldogs get Dale and English back. I'm not confident, but it's my certainty. I'm going to go with it.
I actually think North will get up in this.
North
have been playing very good footy since they went into the midfield.
The one thing I'm worried about is, if the Dogs go forward, this is what every Dogs fan worries about. Where do you go when you go forward? If Norton's up there, probably going to cop, North's backline's pretty steady with Thompson and Tarrant and guys like that. So maybe hard for them to score, but that just means the smaller guys probably have to step up a little more, which they may have the chance to do.
Which brings Richards into the game.
Yeah, maybe it brings Richards in. It probably brings Lockie Hunter in a little more.
I'm not sure because Lockie Hunter's not been one... he's not known for his forward craft.
Oh, no, not necessarily in scoring, but entering the forward 50.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it brings him in a little bit more. I'm going to go with the Dogs.
Fair enough. Well, that's your certainty. That's an interesting certainty.
So are you going with North in this game?
I think that's not my certainty, but...
No, but is that your tip?
North.
Yeah.
That's a fitting tip to go against you then, so come on.
What sort of margin are we thinking here? If you're tipping North, are you expecting them to win by not comfortably?
If North win, it's comfortably. If the Dogs win, it's close.
Yeah, I feel like if North win, it's probably because the Dogs didn't show up. So
possibly, but I do think that North are not very far away from...
They kind of have the midfield to compete
because they're able to break games open.
Yeah.
And...
I'd like Norton to go back and play on Ben Brown. That'd be a cool match.
They need someone on Ben Brown because who does the Dogs have in defence to be able to go with Ben Brown? I wouldn't put Trengo over. Trengo's too slow.
And Norton could get in front of someone like Ben Brown and have a really good day.
The only problem then is if you take Norton out of the front line, there's no one in the front.
What do you do?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
They've faced this problem before.
It will be an option for them to do. They've got English returning, so there are some options that they've got.
Yeah.
Next game of the round?
Adelaide and West Coast. We're in Adelaide, 4:05 PM Australian Central Time. Yep. Adelaide Oval, obviously. The big story for me in this game is Bryce Gibbs has been omitted for the second time this season.
Yeah, that was surprising. He kicked I didn't think he played a bad game on the weekend.
I didn't actually catch Adelaide's game.
I don't know how many disposals he had, but I know he kicked 2 goals.
They're not thrilled.
He shanked
with
another
him,
2, I think.
I mean, to be dropped twice when you're a midfielder the caliber of Bryce Gibbs and we know what he is capable of.
Surely they're not putting the blame on Gibbs for losing on the weekend.
You can't do that. It's a 1-point loss. Can you blame anyone except maybe a bad bounce? Here and there, I don't know.
I wouldn't have minded if they'd gone in unchanged. Actually, I know Miller comes in.
Miller is okay.
I do like him, but I don't like him coming in for Gibbs.
No,
I would have been happy even just keeping Miller out and just going with an unchanged team because
you went to the Gabba. You lost by a point.
Do you think maybe they've dropped a player just because they've lost to Brisbane and Brisbane have had the reputation in the past of not being a good team? Because they are a good team this year.
I don't think they've had any other approach to this omission other than they're just not a fan of what Bryce Gibbs is doing because this is the second time that he's been omitted. I don't really know why.
I don't understand why.
I still think he brings something to AFL teams and a team that's on the cusp of the 8 could use someone like Bryce Gibbs. Whether he's not meeting, in-house KPIs or anything like that in terms of on the field, who knows? But they're not happy with him. West Coast, on the other hand, in Schofield, Waterman, Nelson, out, Jetta suspended, and Venables and Hickey come out.
Yeah.
Not bad ins. I really like Waterman, and it's good to see Nelson get a gig again.
I love Nelson as a player just because he is he's like the spiritual successor to Bo Waters to me. Yeah. He's a real tough he's a kind of player, but he also instigates a lot of fights, which I don't like, and his disposal of the ball is a bit iffy at times. Yeah. I do really like him, and I really, really want him to improve to stay in our team because I love watching him play.
Yeah,
he's also very frustrating to play. Waterman coming back in is good because it means that they're rewarding
and waffle form,
and
I
he's
like
been
that
in
because
he's form.
He's really part of the future, and they just keep blooding him. He doesn't have to get consistent games to make a massive difference. He literally can just come in, come out, just keep getting a taste for AFL footy until you feel a little more confident, a little better.
Because
I like what they're doing with him.
Was Venables, right? So I'm actually interested to see where Waterman goes.
Yeah.
He must be going into the forward line because he is a forward.
Well, Oscar
for
Allen,
Venables.
what do they do with Oscar Allen? Because he moved back last week and now they've brought in Schofield.
Yeah, and Nelson. Nelson's to replace Jeddah, and Schofield's obviously to cover Barras. Oscar Allen actually played well.
He did play well
week,
back, but does he stay there?
No, I don't think so. No.
So if he goes forward, are they running Waterman, Kennedy, Darling, Allen?
Which is very tall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty tall. I mean, your smalls are elite smalls in Ryan and Rioli. That's cool.
Yeah.
But do you need more of them? Makes me wonder. Maybe it's a matchup thing. Who are Adelaide going to have? Sort of in their
to match up for
backline?
all those talls. Yeah, I suppose that's. Do you know what?
Are they
Maybe
just going to try and
West
make
Coast are
Adelaide
just trying
earn
to
it?
stretch them.
Yeah. Really make Adelaide earn it. I mean, Rory
'Cause
Laird becomes a bit of a danger then, but
Hickey's
he's always
gone.
a danger.
Hickey's not in the team, so that leaves Vardy, who's out of form.
Mm.
I suppose, really, for the balance of the team, Waterman coming in is another tall, which is effectively a cover for a ruckman, which is the way that they play. They play 4 talls in the forward line all the time anyway, so they must just be keeping the structure. I've actually got a certainty out of this game.
Is it your boys?
I am regrettably backing in West Coast.
That's interesting.
I think this is more for entertainment purposes. I'm not all that confident about this one, but
how could you be? I mean, it's 50-50.
Yeah,
I mean, the good thing is if you lose this, not only have you lost your certainty, but your team has lost, which I'm very fond of. If you win, although you've got the double delight, which doesn't thrill me. I think West Coast will win too.
I think we win. We've got a good record at Adelaide. We're 2-2 against Adelaide in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I think we're coming into some decent form as well.
I thought West Coast played some really good footy last week. And I know people could say, Melbourne was in not terrible form, they're in winning form, but only against crappy opposition. But Melbourne raised the bar and West Coast raised the bar. Yeah. That was a good game of footy, and Elliot Yeo's a machine. So
Elliot Yeo, shout out to Elliot Yeo. 16 tackles on the weekend. He had 16 tackles on the weekend.
Melbourne.
Luke Shuey had 12 tackles, and the next best tackler had 5. That's a huge discrepancy in tackles.
Those two guys, yeah.
There's 28 tackles between the two of them.
And Elliot Yeo's doing it on both ends. He's tackling, and then he's just attacking with the footy as well.
I love Yeo.
He is huge. So
West Coast for me.
West Coast for me as well.
What if I jinxed you then? You wouldn't be able to talk for the rest of the show.
It'd make it pretty boring, wouldn't it? Wouldn't really be a rivals thing.
Next game on the Saturday.
Shot of ghost pepper sauce.
So our
challenge.
Our punishments if we get our certainties wrong. So if the Bulldogs lose or if West Coast lose, it's going to be Tabasco sauce. This week. All right. So we will do that and upload it next Thursday if it needs to be done.
I'm pretty nervous about that. I'm a spice wuss, and I must say I'm a lemon and herb man at Nando's. So.
Moving on though, next game is the Gold Coast Suns versus the Geelong Cats. It's up at Metricon Stadium. The Suns bring in Burgess and the Cats bring in Atkins, Stanley and Parsons. Collins goes out for the Suns, and the big out for Geelong is Dangerfield going out, but they also lose Abbott and Constable. And I think Constable's pretty decent out as well.
Neither side's at full tilt. Neither side's going to be playing their best brand of football that they can play.
I do like the Suns up at Metricon, and I think that evens the playing field considerably.
Look, I'm not going to tip against Geelong, so I'm going to go with Geelong.
No, I think Geelong as well.
There's nothing to say that the Suns can't put in a spirited
If there was ever a game that Geelong are going to drop for the rest of the year, it's probably this one.
This could really be it. I mean, this could really be it. Like that, they're down without danger. It's a massive part of their game plan. He's their Mr. Fix-It. Constable, you lose a lot of touches. You bring in guys that aren't going to necessarily get many touches. Collins going out hurts.
It does hurt, but Burgess coming in,
probably
offsets that. I think.
Geelong by a small amount. I think Gold Coast young kids can really have a bit of a run around.
Yeah.
They can.
No, I really rate Gold Coast, specifically up in Gold Coast. I think they without actually winning the games, they're actually getting a lot of close games up there. They're actually turning their home ground into a worry. They've
been very competitive there. It's a hard trip. It's a hard trip now. Yeah, I like what they're doing. We've spoken about them a bit. Like what they're doing.
And I don't think that much... There's not really a lot of talking points in this game.
No, it's kind of going to be what it is. I see maybe the Gold Coast competing for three quarters, 3.5 quarters before they maybe...
The Cats will win in under 3 goals.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close.
Yeah.
And I think the Cats,
I think the Suns will come out and blitz them in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then the Cats will just work their way back in.
It could be the way it goes. I think there could be 5-minute lapses in this game that maybe hurt the Gold Coast, where the Cats' professionalism stands out a bit.
Yeah.
Guys like Mitch Duncan is having a fantastic season for Geelong.
Yeah.
And guys like them that you don't really account because they're not the 3 superstars, they're probably going to just get them to fall over the line in this one. So what do we got next? Richmond against Essendon, dream time at the G.
Yeah, it's the big game of the weekend, isn't it? And I tell you what, this game is not necessary. Well, I suppose with the outs now for Essendon, this becomes a much easier game to tip. Before, I was... it
was going to be a good game.
It depends on which Essendon rocks up.
It
depends on which Essendon rocks up. Specifically, which Essendon midfield rocks up.
Also depends on which Richmond rocks up, because they've been good lately.
They've been patchy. Yeah, they were patchy at the start of the year. They're
young at
good.
the moment. They're injured and they're young, and there's nothing to say that they're going to rock up and be perfect.
They've got one good in.
Rioli, which I like because I believe he designed their jerseys for this game, so it's fitting that he comes in and gets to wear them. But yeah, very good.
But they don't have...
Rioli.
Is Coleman Jones a ruckman?
He must be, because they've lost Soldo. They've got
I'm pretty sure he's a rookie ruckman, though.
Can anyone let us know if he's a ruckman and if he's any good? Because I don't know too much about him, to be honest.
Not that that's stopped them in the past before, but with the 666 rule...
Sean Griggs premiership ruckman.
And everything. Yeah, we went through some interesting stats of him last week. Danaher's the big out, though.
Yeah, he's the story of the ins and outs, isn't he? I mean... what do they sort of go to here?
Well, with no Danaher, with no Fantasia,
no Smith.
That's a lot of goal scoring power they've lost.
Who's been kicking their goals outside
Stringer.
of those guys? Stringer's had a really good year.
Stringer and Tip and Woody.
Yeah.
Those have been the two main goal scorers. Did you see?
I can't remember where I saw it, but there was a stat this week that said Tip and Woody, when Essendon wins, has got like 23 goals won. And when they lose, he's got like no score.
Yeah, he's.
So does that make him a barometer or a front runner?
He's 100% a barometer. Like, he'll come into games with energy and he'll come into games without energy, and they definitely play a much faster style game when he is up and about. And do you know what? This could be a game that he goes up and about. It depends on, like, is he a big game player?
Who knows? Has Essendon had many big games?
They have Dream Time. They've got
Anzac Day.
They have a lot of big games.
Yeah, right, big games. I was thinking more games that are important in the finals hunt. But you're right, they do have big games.
Coleman Jones is a ruckman, yes.
Yeah, okay. Had to be, right? But I think I'm going to go with Richmond.
I think Richmond as well, yep.
Only because the Danaher thing is significant.
They've lost a lot of forward power, yeah.
I just don't see who's going to kick their goals. If they're relying on Stringer and Tip and Woody to kick goals, I see maybe
specifically against Grimes and Asprey.
I mean,
I can't see it.
At tops, like a big day out, they could combine for 7. Like one could have 4, one could have 3.
I actually think that,
but that's like the most I can see them combining for. And outside of that, I'm like, well, you're relying on midfielders who they don't have a goal kicking midfield, do they? Like Merritt, Heppel. Do they hit the goals that much?
Not much, no.
Does McGrath,
they hit the goals, but not much. They're not goal-kicking midfielders.
Yeah, like I don't know where they're going to come from. Like, who are their ins? Laverde and McKernan.
Yeah.
McKernan can kick goals.
He can, yeah, and that will provide some scoring power for them. But I envision that the Bombers won't kick more than 7 goals for this game.
Yeah, they're going to struggle.
In total.
They struggled last week to kick goals. Again, Freo's got a good stringent defense, so that's bound to happen.
The only reason.
But yeah, like I don't see them having personnel to get
the Tigers for me.
Yeah.
Next game Sunday is first game of the Sunday. Melbourne versus the Giants at the MCG. Now we've got extended benches on this, so bear with us.
Yeah.
Lewis, Wiedemann, Spargo, Wagner, and Pruce comes in for Melbourne, and against for the Giants, it's Cornelio, Simpson, Hatley, Keefe, and Cumming. Big outs or the only out so far for Melbourne is Neil Bullen, who only just came back in, so that's a bit unlucky.
Can't get really consistency, yeah.
Williams is the big out for the Giants, and
he's
out for a month.
Yeah, he's a big out. He'd been good. GWS need to win this game just to show they can win at the MCG.
They need to, but at the same time, Melbourne need to win this game to keep their season
Both
alive.
of them need to win it.
This is big game for both clubs.
This is big. When we were going through the run home for those top teams, and I think we had this as a loss for GWS
we had
because they're at the MCG.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it's the exact same dimensions as what Canberra is.
Yeah, I don't know why they struggle so much. It must just be atmosphere. Atmosphere noise, something.
Well, see, it's interesting you say that because every single game that they've played against big crowds, they've lost.
Yeah, right. Okay, they're used to playing in front of small crowds.
If you were to say that 30,000 is a big crowd, specifically for the Giants, I'm pretty sure they've lost about 95% of those games.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They don't win in front of big crowds.
Okay, so is this going to be a big crowd? They didn't have a big crowd when they versed Hawthorn.
Well, no, but in saying that, Hawthorn have a bit of a reputation for not turning up to their team's games when they're not going well.
Yes.
Melbourne has a more loyal supporter base.
Well, they're just used to losing, so they're just going to keep rocking up.
They have a more loyal supporter base.
They've been rocking up to losses for 20 years.
They are getting momentum into the season.
They are. I thought
you can just sniff a win here for Melbourne just to keep that energy alive. I think if you go back a few years, right, you had the 06 Sydney last year, which created a bit of a storm. The biggest run to finals, though, I would argue, is the Tigers at 3-10.
Yeah.
And then they didn't drop another game to get fined. Every single game that they played after that 3-10 and they were winning was just like, are they going to drop it? Are they? Can they drop a game? Yeah. They went on to win like 10 in a row or something.
Yeah, it was huge. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go with Melbourne. And what was interesting was I picked two certainties this week because if you would have gotten in early on the Bulldogs, I was going to go with the D's.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with Melbourne. Canelio in is obviously massive. And I think Hatley or however you say it, it was very good for GWS before he went out. So they got good ins, but I thought Melbourne, we said it before when we were talking about West Coast, I thought they really raised the bar last week and played better footy.
I actually think the Giants are going to take this and they're going to
prove they can win at the G. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Because they've only got one more game at the G for the year after this.
That's late too,
which is, I think, against maybe Collingwood or something. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Could be.
It could be against Richmond as well. I'm not sure. But I do think, I think the Giants get this one and prove that they can win at the G.
They need to. But
both teams need to win.
What do you make of Melbourne's ins? I've only written down the ones I thought were important, and it's Lewis, Wiedemann, and Bruce.
They've got Spargo and Wagner as well.
Spargo and Wagner are good players.
Yeah.
So
all of their ends are good ins for the team.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they settle. Because Neil Bullen's their only certain to go out, and I wouldn't really want to change last week's lineup too much.
And I would 100% be bringing in Bruce for this against Mumford because Mumford, Gawn doesn't like the physical side of the game.
No,
he hates it.
He's a bit of a finesse.
And who is the most physical player in the competition?
The big sausage, Shane
Mummy,
Mumford.
Big Mummy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got to be.
So you want to be protecting Gawn in this game, and you want to be putting Bruce in there a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, and that's probably what they're going for.
I think Bruce is a big physical ruckman, and he can. I put it to you that Bruce hurts Mumford this week. Like he puts a big bump on him or something. Something happens. Mumford comes off second best.
Yeah, maybe even just in a hit-out scenario or something like that.
Possibly,
something can happen.
But something happens in this game that causes Bruce and Mumford to go and clash, and Mumford comes off second best.
Speaking of matchups, will Frost go to Cameron? Who's been taking the number one forward for Melbourne's defence?
It was lately? Frost that tackled Petruccelli, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he's fast.
Amazing highlight.
I know.
Huge highlight.
I know.
Yeah, of course. But anyone can pay homage to that.
I think
that was
he's got the mobility to go with.
I think he's got the potential to go really well on Cameron.
Yeah. Cameron hasn't had a big. He went goalless last week. He only kicked one goal the week before. I think it's almost ruled out his 100 for the year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless he just suddenly comes back with some really good goal kicking.
That's one of those weird Buddy 13 nights.
Yeah, no, I think he holds them again. But in saying that, GWS has a lot of scoring.
Oh, there's
power.
more than Cameron to worry about, for sure. For sure. I'm going to go with Melbourne on that one anyway. Next up, what do we got?
We got Saints and Carlton at Marvel. Got some interesting ones here. So we've got, for the Saints coming in, Caulfield, Long, Clark, White, and Longer. I think Longer's a good one.
Long and Longer, right.
For Carlton, I think this is the most impressive list of ins for the entire round. You got Simpson, Plowman, Kerr, Kennedy, Fasolo, and Cunningham.
Yeah,
Every single
ins.
one of them, except for probably Kerr, is a major in
Is a good
for the
player,
Blues. And
yeah. Mark Murphy does go out.
Mark Murphy does go out, yes. But I think that actually helps their midfield, their young midfield.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they can do without him.
Yeah,
not to say he hinders them.
No,
per se.
No,
but
don't get me wrong.
I just
him
want to see
going
what they
out
can do
will
without
hinder
him.
them more than if he was in the team. But I don't mind him missing a couple of games here.
He's not Cripps. They're not missing Cripps, are they? So like,
no, but he's very classy.
I like
they
Mark
will
Murphy.
miss his use of the ball. But I don't mind him missing, what's he missing? 2 to 3 weeks with
Something
cracked
like
ribs
that,
or something like that. Just to see how the young midfield goes without him there.
Yeah,
I quite like it. In fact, I have Carlton winning this game.
I've got Carlton. I'm going to go with Carlton because I don't think St Kilda's ins do much for them.
They're not,
and I think Carlton's ins do a lot. I like Simpson comes in. That's big. I really like bringing Kennedy in while Murphy goes out. I was a fan of Kennedy last year, and I think he can do some really good things when given a chance.
For Solo into the forward line, just injects a bit of
gives him
energy.
a new dynamic. Yeah. Even if he doesn't have a cracking game, it might just be something for the younger guys to hang their hat on and go, oh, it's a senior AFL player out there. This is really good.
I think Carlton cracks 100 again this week.
Could do. Saints don't really.
Have
they cocked up points recently, St Kilda?
Yeah,
relatively.
I see this being a big win, though.
Yeah. I don't think that's out of the question. What I hope for is for Caulfield and Clark to show something for St Kilda.
Yeah.
I really hope they do. They've had sort of knocks on them because everyone just...
a big game.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be fitting. But I really want to see Caulfield and Clark do something. That the Saints invested so much into them, and I really just hope... Like, they've had their critics probably just because people are just looking for reasons to knock St Kilda at this point. Yeah. They're on the chopping block sort of thing. The second-year kids, I really hope they can do something. Clark's VFL form was outstanding last week. Yes. I think he had 31 touches and a goal. So, hopefully that goes well for them. But we're both going Carlton.
Yeah. Carlton. Yeah. I was very close to putting this as a certainty, actually.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very, very confident Carlton gets this.
Yeah. That is confident.
Yeah.
A certainty for a team that just lost by 93 points.
Yeah, but
this is a very different looking team.
They lost by, close to 60 points against, not against the Hawks. Who was it against? The week before, and then they came up against the Hawks, and
they're hot
very
cold.
almost.
So if they're hot, they'll win this game.
No, they come back in a big way.
On the topic of Carlton, I really liked during the week the news that came out that the players got everyone in and had they told the coaches to get away and had a players only meeting.
Although I will say that most of the time when players tend to do this, it's not a good case for the coach moving forward.
No, but I don't think this is that bad.
I don't think this was that scenario.
I think this is the players actually even coming in and galvanising and saying, "Hey, Brendan, get out!" But then the captains and the leadership group saying, "This is our coach. We're backing him." I think they like their coach. I think the player group loves their coach. Yeah. And I think, we harp on about Brendan Bolton, everyone does, but I think that them coming together for that meeting was actually a meeting just to reaffirm the playing group that, hey, this is the path we're on and stick by bolts because things could get better. So I hope that that's what it was anyway.
We'll swing back to that question, Jason, Spaniard. As soon as we just tick off the last game. So I'll come back to that in a moment. We both think Carlton, though.
We both think Carlton.
Last game of the round.
Last game. My Dockers are hosting Lockie Neal and his Lions. Yep. This doesn't look great. Taberner goes out, and in for Taberner comes... Logue McCarthy are the leading replacements, and then I believe, I haven't written them down, but I think it was Bailey, Banfield, Brett Bewley, and Mitch Crowden were on the extended interchange.
Yep.
And for Brisbane, we've got Berry and Matheson going out.
That's right, yep.
And ins, we've got Hodge, Christensen, Taylor, Robertson,
Ballenden and Archie Smith. I like Archie Smith.
I think he's really good. I hope he has a terrible game if he comes in, but I think he's really good.
This was my second list of ins, which is the biggest list of ins for a team this week.
Yeah.
Even though Sydney have got Buddy and Kennedy coming in, like those are massive ins for the Lions.
Yeah, Hodge is a big one against...
Louis Taylor is a big one as well.
They're all players that I could see doing damage against Fremantle's lineup. Like Hodge, I can see taking control of Fremantle's half-forward line, you know. Christensen, I can see sort of having a battle with Walters and evening that battle if Christensen has a big game. Like, he would need a big game.
I don't even think a big game from Christensen evens that
Maybe I'm just cynical on my own team right now.
No, Michael Walters, there are not many players in the competition that can better Michael Walters.
Yeah. Thank God. And then, you're right. Lewis Taylor could have a big one. I don't know if Fremantle's really got someone to man up on him. Maybe if he floats half forward, maybe someone like Taylor Dooman gets a crack at him.
Possibly.
Probably not a terrible matchup.
Mind you,
Blakely
their
gets his second
game. I think their back line is good enough to contain the Lions' forward line.
Well, I'd like to think too.
It's the forward line of the Dockers that should completely smash this game open and beat the Lions' back line, but do they?
The worst thing about Taberner going out is that Hogan is almost certain to get Harris Andrews now as well.
Yep.
Maybe Hogan can pull out a Hogan performance and have a really big one on him.
Hogan plays his best footy, I feel, when you put the pressure on
when he's under enormous pressure.
And you allow him to take on that pressure.
Yeah, and really... I don't want to say play on instinct, but just play Hogan footy. Like, we know he's a good footballer.
When he's got swagger about him, he's the best to watch when he's got swagger about him.
Fantastic.
Give him the swagger, Ross.
Yeah, just give him the license, you know. But I would like to see... The interesting thing is Taberner goes out and the two potential replacements become McCarthy-Logue. I don't know why it has to be a tall. Why do you have to run 3 talls? I don't understand. You could run 2 talls.
It's because of the way that Freo play their game.
I get it.
That's just kick it in, try and lock it in. Don't actually lock it in. Get scored on the toe.
I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them just run a small... Like, Mitch Crowden in the Waffle in the last 2 weeks has 27 tackles in the last 2 weeks.
Jesus.
He had 12 2 weeks ago and he had 15 on the weekend.
All right, then.
What does Fremantle lack? Pressure. You know, when the other sides get rolling, they can congest it, but their pressure's not great. Like, they can bog it down, but their tackling is subpar. When they get burnt in the middle, they're sort of gone. Someone like Crowden might come in if he's laying tackles like that. You know, just tell him your job is to get 10 touches, but lay a bunch of tackles and maybe kick a goal. Like, that'd be great. The one I hope that they make if they go tall is Griffin Logue.
Yeah.
Having said that,
yes,
played back all preseason. He trained back all preseason. He's been playing backline for Peel. But
that might help his forward craft, though.
In his first year, he played some forward line, and he just takes marks. He's a really good marker of the footy. Clean pair of hands. To be honest, overall, I just see him doing more than McCarthy. Knowing
what backs do and how they employ themselves against you could help his forward line craft.
I totally agree with that. And like I just said, to be honest, I just see him doing more than what McCarthy's going to offer them in this situation.
Before I get your tip, what I want to do is I want to come back to Spaniard and just answer that question. Then I'll get your tip because both of our questions are Fremantle related.
Yes.
And that's a good segue going into that, all right? So Spaniard asks, for the Sydney versus Collingwood game, who do you think will go on, Buddy, if Darcy Moore is out? Is Darcy Moore
He didn't play last week, so he's out again. So
he's
not on the in.
He wasn't an in.
Yeah.
So he has to be out. So who's in there? I'm just trying to think. Probably Langdon, I would imagine.
But Langdon's an out.
Oh, you're right.
Langdon's an out. And plus, I think Langdon's probably just too small. So who's been defending for them? Crisp has been running off defending. He doesn't really defend.
No, he's not a one-on-one defender.
Runs off. And I don't want him to be a one-on-one defender because he's in my fantasy side. So
I'm just trying to think of who's
good question, Spaniard.
Do you know what? Actually, maybe Reed goes back.
Could do. Who were their ins again?
Considering they haven't brought anyone in to replace Langdon.
Is Imagine a midfielder?
I'm not sure, but he's not a Langdon quality defender.
No.
And they've already got... I'd say they have to swing Reed back.
Yeah, probably.
That's probably their only
And what
option.
does that leave them with up forward? Myercheck kicked a bag last week.
Myercheck is fine
really,
just as a
really
single
good.
forward, and bringing in Wells and everything, it means that
You've
they're
still
going
got
smaller.
enough
And to be perfectly honest, at the
Stevenson's
SCG...
been on fire. Elliott is still there.
At the SCG, I think smalls work better at the SCG because you have to play territory, and they're good at playing territory.
Yeah, they are. And Myercheck plays tall enough to play as a tall, I think.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He's brilliant.
100%.
So, he stands tall enough. So I think with Wells...
Imagine as a VFL defender. But I would still throw Reed back to take Buddy.
I'd throw Reed back. You'd run with... That leaves you... I don't know positions they're going to play.
I would actually throw Reed on Reed, not Buddy. I wouldn't put him on Buddy. I'd throw Reed on Reed.
As long as he's in the back line, you've got a presence. So
Reed's really a good contested mark, and they need a tall defender to bring down the contested mark.
And if you take Reed out of the forward line, you still got...
It's not damaging it.
What names have they still got up there then? They got Myercheck, Stevenson, Elliott, Hoskin Elliott,
Thomas.
Wells
will be running through the forward
There's
line.
enough goal kickers there.
100%.
There's enough. No, they have no trouble scoring from their midfield. Their midfield kicks still side bottom can roll forward.
Oh yeah, they've got Roughhead. I forgot Roughhead.
And he's
was
been
on the
having
Pies
a really
list.
good season.
I forgot. I would still. Yeah. I mean, I suppose Roughhead could go on Reed. Yeah. But they've got the option to swing Reed back if one of them is
they're not bereft of options at any point, which is amazing given that some of their injuries are to key players, and they don't really have to worry about it that much. Yeah. That's how well built their team is.
Yeah. Let's swing back. Who wins, Dockers or Lions?
The Dockers. I'm going to back them.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I think the Dockers. I think the Dockers do as well. A hard slog game last week for the Lions.
Then they have to
travelling all the way over to Soup.
Although their record against they belted Fremantle by 10 goals last year.
But beyond that, Perth has not been a happy hunting.
No, it has not.
I see the Lions going down in this game as well.
And I really hope. I really hope Fremantle needs to show some passion. These players need to show something. They have to. It's been 3 weeks of non-passionate play. There's been no fire at all. Yeah. What better way to do it than Lachie Neale comes home?
I tell you what,
or not home,
Ross Lyon has done his best to fire up the boys in the media.
He did. What did he say the other day? I can't remember, but he said something about he hopes
the supporters and the players.
I hope they make it hard
getting
for
into
him.
him. Yeah,
I hope they make it hard for him. So do I. I mean, I don't hate. I don't hold any grudge against Lachie Neale. I really love his footy. And everything he does is really good, but I really hope Fremantle, for their sakes, just show some passion, get out there and get fired up. I'd love to see a young kid go over to Lachie Neale and just say, hey, you might be great and all that, but you left our team. And for the 2 hours that they're going to play against each other, just hate him.
Smash you. What's Fife's first action on the field?
Hopefully a clearance, and then just.
Do you reckon he goes straight up to Neale before bounce?
I think they'll avoid each other. I think Fremantle will send someone to Lachie Neale. I think they know that when Lachie Neale was at Fremantle and he got tagged, didn't play that well. He's shaking tags more now that he's at Brisbane, because he's sort of taking his game up a level.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised to see Fremantle send someone like Darcy Tucker to him and just, try and limit him a bit, which probably means someone else. I could see Fife going directly to Zorko and then they just go their separate ways.
Probably.
Yeah. But I'm going to go with Freo. I'm going to do it.
Let's come back to our questions and we'll try and speed through this because we're running a little bit over time. If Lachie Neale is at Fremantle this year and they didn't trade him, are they a certainty to make finals? You're arguing no, they're not.
No, they're not. And I'm just going to refer that back to last year. Or in years past when they've had him and haven't made finals. And I think
but they've got a different team this year.
I think it's because...
does their midfield change enough that it is a bit more free-flowing?
Look, 100% they'd be a better team with him in. And that better team might be playing finals. But the reason I think they wouldn't be is that Lachie Neale is not... at Fremantle is not as good as Lachie Neale is at Brisbane. I think if you kept him at Fremantle, he probably wouldn't have taken his game to another height like he has at Brisbane because he's behind Nat Fife. They never actually, they did, they didn't play an overly big amount of football together in recent years because Fife's always been injured.
Not when Neil has been as good as he is.
Yeah, so that is hard to judge, but I don't think Neil would have taken the step forward that he has had he stayed at Fremantle. So in turn, would not have made Fremantle as good as he's made Brisbane.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have taken them that far forward. And I also just don't think Fremantle's system, like we've said already tonight, Fremantle's personnel's not a problem. It's their system.
Yeah.
So if you're going to bring him in, your personnel would be great, but you'd still have a bad system. So no, I don't think. I genuinely don't think if he was there.
Yeah, right.
they
I actually
would play
think
finals.
that they do. I think he in the midfield makes enough of a difference in the midfield that they're consistently winning the midfield battle in a more positive area in terms of winning the ball and getting it to open space, which then improves their delivery into the forward line for their power forward line. I think he is definitely a player who can deliver the ball fairly well when he's got space, but he's also a player that gives space to other players, to the better users of the ball.
Yeah, he was that extra class.
He's the player that gets the ball out to maybe not Fife, because Fife's not necessarily the best user of the ball.
It could be someone
but he gets it out to Mundy, who is
Walters.
a brilliant user of the ball, who then actually hits the targets into the forward line. But as it is now, it's left up to mostly Fife to deliver the ball under the pressure.
Yeah.
Or Mundy, also under pressure. There's no one in and under that besides Fife to actually release that pressure.
You're right. And when Fife doesn't...
I think Neil would have been that player, and he actually... He changes the way that Freo would have played this year.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. You're right. If Fife doesn't win that clearance, they
have no one else to win.
If he's not the first one to get it, like if Mundy handballs out to Fife, they just don't look the same as if Fife handballs out to Mundy. Yeah. My question to you, you need to reassure me. You need to give me some.
All right, I'll give you some reassurance.
Matt Taberner going out will not hurt Fremantle. They will be just as good without Matt Taberner. He's not as important as he seems.
This is why... Okay, so Taberner is a contested marking machine. He's not particularly a lead-up forward.
No, he's not.
And he's not a particularly good set shot on goal either.
Terrible set shot on goal this year.
The ends, specifically the ends that they've brought in, so McCarthy's a much more lead-up forward than Taberner ever has been. And Log, depending on what role they bring him into the team, can also do that as well.
Yeah.
He's also a contested mark, and he's a better kick for goal. They're both better kicks for goal.
Yeah.
What that actually does, I think, is it actually creates more space in the forward line, taking Taberner out of the forward line, because... I think one of the reasons that Freo have employed the game style of just bob it in is because Taberner is a good contested mark.
Yeah.
Taking him out of that forces them to lower their eyes a bit more and actually hit the lead-up target, because Freo's forward line predominantly is a pretty stagnant forward line. There's not much movement. There's not a lot of movement in the forward line. You take Taberner out... and Hogan tends to rely on his contested marking a lot as well, without being a lead-up forward as well. You take him out and you put in a lead-up forward, and suddenly there's so much more movement. Even if McCarthy isn't getting the ball in the forward line, he's all of a sudden created space and taken a defender with him to even that contested mark for Hogan or Lob or whoever it is that's in there. It just... Movement in the forward line creates a much more functioning forward line, and that is why Taberner going out actually improves their forward line.
I can 100% tell you have reassured me, because it's the exact sentence and argument that I've been saying to myself ever since I read the news that he was done for the season.
Yeah, but you've
so to hear it from another mouth is very good.
Yeah, but you've now got to take your hope away.
Yes,
so everything I said, you've just now got to tell me, no, you're wrong.
Don't worry, I've been cynical on the Dockers for like 15 years.
So after giving you hope, I want you to take it away from yourself.
Okay, all right. The reason they're not going to be as good is because he's top 5 in the league for contested marks.
Yeah,
and while bringing him out does force them to have more movement, it's not something they're going to adjust to quickly. It's not something that I don't think all of a sudden they're going to go McCarthy and Logue or McCarthy or Logue are in the forward line.
Yep.
Let's lower our eyes, boys. I still think they're going to bomb it high. And I think it's just going to be a different person at the foot of it. And if I could have Taberner at the foot of it, who's a top 5 contested mark in the comp, or if I could have Griffin Logue, who's an unproven youngster, who we hope is a young gun, but really at the moment we're just calling him a youngster.
Yeah.
I'd have Taberner. So... with the way they play the game, like back to what you said about how they play the game and how they enter forward 50, Taberner would work better for them. If they change that, if the midfielders change their approach and everything like that, I totally am on board with your argument. I
do genuinely think movement in the forward line changes the way you enter the forward line.
Yeah, I think it draws the midfielder to you. Yeah. And I hope that's the case.
And even if it doesn't, and if they do... even if it doesn't, they probably hold the ball a second longer, though, to allow that space to open up.
Yes.
To allow a 50-50 contest, as opposed to introducing another defender into the contest.
Exactly, it's made it interesting. We've both got the same argument, one's for, one's against. It all just comes down to whether the midfielders decide they're actually going to, how they're going to enter it.
Yeah, purely depends on how the midfield responds.
Which is lucky they've got a week to prepare for that. Hopefully they have done that well.
Who knows?
Yes, who knows?
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching the show. Now, in the description below will be a link to our Discord. So come and chat to us in the Discord server about all things footy over the weekend, the games, so on and so forth. Even just continuing to discuss our opinions that we've shared on the show tonight. It would be brilliant to see you in there. Link is down below. Make sure you follow. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for notifications to receive notifications when we do come out live with the show on a weekly basis, as well as the other content that we come out on the channel as well.
It's been another good show. I've enjoyed it once again.
That's us for this week.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has been your AFL Access.